chose to lead rather than fall behind. I mounted an extensive 20-month effort to understand a multifaceted system and find the best representative examples of pain points and bottlenecks, as well as promising models for the future. I mobilized a research team of full-time professionals. We reviewed nearly 100 reports from as many associations and think tanks, compiled statistics, and tried to get behind numbers that sometimes conflicted, drew on faculty experts, went on behind-the-scenes field visits, conducted hundreds of interviews, and in February 2014 convened a national summit at HBS, which I chaired. The summit included nearly 200 industry and government leaders, airline and railroad CEOs, technology innovators, labor leaders, national association heads, community activists, and public officials, including mayors, U.S. senators, and members of Congress, leaders across sectors and industries who had rarely sat in the same room with one another. One conclusion was that the wider public needed to be part of the discussion. That encouraged me to contemplate writing a book that could engage a broad audience. I went on the road and took to the air. Throughout the United States, I listened to numerous innovators, such as Zipcar's former CEO Scott Griffith and the founder of a venture producing flying cars, and investors seeking promising projects as they saw the potential for infrastructure and transportation investments. First-hand investigations included visits to a tunnel under the ocean in Miami in its final construction phase, the streets, bike-sharing stations, and rail crossings of Chicago, guided by local planners and officials. The American Airlines Flight Operations Center in Texas, meeting with pilots, dispatchers, and experts from the weather company. The Verizon Innovation Center, with its new applications of technology under development, and the latest instant bridges, among other tours. I had frequent conversations with a railroad CEO at board meetings we shared and with airline executives I knew. My team and I went to downtown offices and run-down inner-city neighborhoods, riding various forms of transit while conducting interviews with dozens of people in half a dozen cities. Given that infrastructure often seems to be a man's world, even though women are major consumers and elected officials, it was heartening to include outstanding woman leaders in the interviews and visits, such as former FAA Administrator Jane Garvey, serial public transportation chief Beverly Scott, logistics company CEO Ann Drake, MIT robotics lab head Daniela Roos, General Motors CEO Mary Barra, and IBM CEO Virginia Rometty. Barra and Rometty attended college at General Motors Institute around the same time, proving that girls like cars too, and that they can become engineers. The effort was national in scope, but necessarily demanded focus. A few places received comprehensive attention: the Chicago metropolitan area, Miami and Miami-Dade County, and various parts of California, New York, and Massachusetts. Massachusetts appears often in this book, not because Boston is my home base, but because the Commonwealth has been a transportation pioneer and hotbed of innovation. We also viewed Atlanta, Detroit, Philadelphia, Denver, and other metropolitan regions from both ground and air. For a comparative perspective, I drew on my international travels to China, Singapore, Japan, and Europe for informal observations and conversations. For example, I met the CEO of BMW in Munich and the CEO of Turkish Airlines in Istanbul. Earlier, I had welcomed the former mayor of Curitiba in Brazil, an urban transportation pioneer, to a think tank for my advanced leadership program, and I had met other mayors and teams from global cities at IBM's Smarter Cities Challenge Summit. As the research progressed, I found that many of the ideas I was developing were in sync with enlightened officials of local, state, and federal departments of transportation who are passionate about improvements. I spoke with a range of other elected officials while presenting at a program for newly elected mayors at Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Some analysis could build on my previous work, which centers on strategy, innovation, and leadership for change. My book, The Change Masters, included a long examination of